How's it, guys? So I've been asked to do a video on batteries, lead acid batteries and lipos, and why one and not the other, etc. So let me give you the pros and cons, and you can just make up your own mind from there. So most of your, I would say in your bait boat guys, most of the guys that have brushed boats would run off a lead acid, and most of the guys with brushless would run off a lipo. So I would always suggest going lipo with brushless, and I'll explain why now. And you could use either if you really wanted to. So on the lead acid battery, obviously it's very heavy. There's one con there already versus a nice light lipo. All right. Let's say this is an 8 amp gel battery, so that's 8,000 milliamp. But then once again, when this is fully charged, it's at 13.8. Okay. But with the lead acid battery, you can't discharge it lower than 50%. I would say is a safe zone, which is going to be about 11.6 volts. That's where you should really cut off the battery. So in most instances, guys will run this battery much lower than that, and they would end up replacing a lead acid more often than a guy that's running a lipo and behaving with regards to how low you can take these things. So in my opinion, your cost of ownership would be greater if you're running a lead acid system if you're not maintaining your batteries. You would need to trickle charge these all the time, put them on a block of wood or something, not on a cement floor, and keep them charged fully. So there's that maintenance aspect as well. And then obviously if you're discharging this to 50% on the bank, and it'll take 7 hours to charge properly. It's not a fast charging scenario, so you would need a number of these with you if you're fishing. And then obviously that weight aspect comes into play now again, that you're carrying out multiple batteries around on the lead acid side. So this is where the lipo comes into its own, obviously being lighter. This is a 5,000 milliamp 4-cell battery. Your lead acids are 6P, which is a 12 volt battery. Your 4-cell or 3-cell, whatever cell, obviously that'll determine what voltage the battery is. So this is a 4-cell, so at standby this would be 14.8, and fully charged it would be 16.8. Okay, and then on a 3-cell, for instance, which is this one here, it's a 5,000 milliamp, and it's fully charged at 12.6 and flat at 11.1. Okay, this is flat at 14.8. So let's say 20% left of the battery. So you can only use 50% of this lead acid battery, and you can use 80% of this battery, its capacity. You wouldn't want to take it lower than 20%, because then you can, or per cell, they would say at 3.2. You wouldn't go lower than 3.2 volts per cell in order to not to damage the battery. So if you look at, if we put out a little tester in here, which you can get on my shop as well, you can see that this battery is at 15.2. It's at 27%. It's in storage at the moment. You'd never keep a lipo charged. It doesn't like that. You put them into storage, and you can just store them indefinitely like that. You don't have to maintain them like you would do on a lead acid. You would charge them fully the day before you would use on your session, and then when you get home you would run them in a storage mode to keep them in a storage, keep them in a cupboard or wherever, or a lipo safe bag. But yes, so the nice thing about a lipo is it charges rapidly. So when this is at 20%, if I slap it on the charger now, it's probably going to take about 45 minutes to charge fully, and then you can use it again, and you can use its 80% worth of the power that it gives you, and then you can charge it again 40 minutes and off you go again. This would be charging 7 hours before you can use it again properly. That's the advantage. So most guys will only have 2 main batteries on the lipo, and they're just rotating between them, dropping and charging. You'll probably get let's just say if you're using a brushless system, the lipo is the better way to go. You're probably going to get more or less the same drops from both batteries, amount of trips, but like I say, you're going to charge forever on this one. On a brushed system, you're going to get a lot more runs out of this battery, because a brushed motor doesn't pull as much amps as a brushless system would. So there's a trade-off. With a brushless system, you're obviously you're pulling a lot more amps, and therefore this is where this baby comes into play. Now another question one gets asked is, you can see on here it's 5,000 milliamp, and it's a 45C. So the C rating is quite important. That's how fast this battery can discharge, or how much power is on demand. You can see it's quite a thick cable, so it's a 45C, so it can take quite a number of amps. So the higher the C rating, the more power the battery can dump at once. So like you'll see, this battery is a 60C. It's a 3-cell 60C, 5,000, but this can dump a whole lot of amps very quickly. So if you need a lot of power on demand, the higher the C rating, the more amps, the more power output the battery can dump at once. So this battery would probably discharge quicker than a lower C battery, for the mere fact, if the guy's opening up the throttle, this battery is going to just give as much power as it can to give you the best performance. So normally, if you want to, you're using a bait boat, so you don't need a high C rating really, then you can go for a lower 45C. It just depends what's available. Yeah, so that's positives and cons. Obviously with a Lipo, it's a lot more unstable than a lead acid battery would be, so one would have to look after them, keep them in a Lipo safe bag, don't keep them charged, store them properly, don't drop them because they can burst into flames if the cells get compromised. You don't want to take your voltage lower than 3.2 volts per cell, to recap, and a high point 4.2 volts per cell. So it's handy to have one of these. You know what it's doing, what your battery's at. It will check every cell individually, which is quite handy. So if I plug it in again, you can actually go into each cell independently. So you can see the first cell's at 3.8, next one's 3.8, and so forth. So you can see if your cells are balanced properly, and then obviously the total voltage of the battery. So this battery I wouldn't want to take lower than 3.2, then I would kill the battery. Okay, so I'm still good here on my cells. So there's still a bit of oomph left in this. Even though it's a 27%, you get your usage amount out of that. And then, like I said, on the lead acid, you don't want to go lower than 11.6, but honestly, most guys will push this to 10.5, and by that time, they've probably already damaged the battery. So you'll find that guys are changing these quite constantly. This battery is 7 years old, and I charge the day before and store when I get back, and it's still going. So if you work out the cost of ownership throughout the entire life of your boat, this is the way to go. Okay, cool. Use it, don't use it. You're welcome to drop me a line if you want some questions answered.